We stare at museum dioramas and think we understand exactly where we came from. We imagine simple cavemen striking flints together, discovering fire, and slowly marching in a straight line toward modern civilization. It is a very comforting story, but it is almost entirely a lie. We want to believe we are the undisputed pinnacle of evolution. Therefore, we assume our ancestors were nothing more than primitive brutes. Most of us are familiar with the mammoth hunters, but few dare to look at what lies at the bottom. As we peel back the dirt, the familiar textbook facts will vanish, replaced by anomalies that completely defy logic. Tier 1. The surface, the accepted truth. Around 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens emerged in Africa. We learned to knap stone into deadly points. We painted beautiful depictions of horses and lions in the caves of Lascaux. We shared the planet with our sturdy cousins, the Neanderthals, but the deeper we dig, the more we realize we were just one piece of a terrifyingly crowded puzzle. But as we descend deeper below the surface of the timeline, the ice begins to crack. Welcome to Tier 2, the shallows. For decades, the scientific community insisted that human beings had to invent agriculture before they could build complex societies. They believed hunter-gatherers were incapable of organized construction. But in 1994, a discovery in Turkey shattered that assumption. Gobekli Tepe, massive stone pillars weighing up to 20 tons, intricately carved with menacing predators like scorpions and vultures. It was built over 11,000 years ago. That is thousands of years before the invention of farming or the wheel. Therefore, religion and the desire to worship came first, forcing nomadic bands to settle down and invent agriculture just to feed the massive workforce building these megaliths. The timeline of human intelligence is completely backward. And speaking of intelligence, what about the Neanderthals? We assumed they were lumbering apes, but we now know they created their own art, buried their dead with flowers, and manufactured a complex birch bark tar to glue their spearheads. They were entirely parallel to us in their cognitive abilities. Can you guess what truly separated us from them? It was not a superior intellect. What archaeologists found in the sediment layer changed everything we thought we knew. We have now reached Tier 3, the murk. Here, the shadows grow longer. Beneath the freezing waters of the North Sea lies Doggerland, a massive, lost continent that once connected Great Britain to mainland Europe. It was a paradise for early humans, teeming with wildlife and freshwater lakes. But roughly 8,000 years ago, a catastrophic underwater landslide known as the Storegga Slide triggered a megatsunami. A wall of water over 60 feet high obliterated Doggerland, wiping out an entire human population in a matter of hours. Imagine standing on a coastline that literally ceases to exist. But the physical destruction of environments is nothing compared to the destruction of entire human branches. As genetic testing advanced, scientists began sequencing the DNA of modern humans. But they found something utterly inexplicable hiding inside our genetic code. We call it ghost DNA. When we sequence the genomes of certain modern populations, especially in West Africa, we find genetic material from a completely unknown hominin species. We have NO fossils of them. We have NO bones. We only know they existed because their spectral fingerprints are permanently burned into our bloodlines. We interbred with phantoms. We carry the memories of species that the Earth has completely swallowed. The fossil record here goes completely dark, leaving us with a chilling possibility. Welcome to Tier 4, the deep waters. This is where the romanticized image of the noble savage violently ends. In Kenya, near the shores of Lake Turkana, lies the site of Nataruk. 10,000 years ago, a nomadic band of hunter-gatherers was ambushed. 27 individuals were found. Their skulls were crushed by obsidian clubs. Their hands were bound. Even a pregnant woman was not spared. This was not a desperate struggle against a harsh environment. This was calculated, organized slaughter. It is the earliest undeniable evidence of human warfare. But the brutality does not stop at warfare. In England, inside Gough's cave, researchers discovered human remains that had been meticulously butchered. The bones were cracked open for marrow, but the skulls were left intact, carefully shaped and smoothed to be used as drinking cups. This wasn't just survival, this was something far darker. It was a ritualistic desecration of their own kind. The primal fear you feel when walking alone in the dark woods is not an irrational phobia. It is an ancestral echo, a survival instinct forged in a time when the most dangerous predator in the forest was another human being. Welcome to the abyss, where history bleeds into myth. We have reached the absolute bottom. Tier 5. Here, the air is thin, and the truth is deeply unsettling. In 2013, deep inside the Rising Star Cave system in South Africa, explorers squeezed through a terrifyingly narrow chute, dropping into a chamber completely devoid of light. What they found defies all evolutionary logic. The floor was covered in the bones of Homo naledi, a primitive hominin with a brain the size of an orange. These creatures existed alongside modern humans. But how did they get their dead deep into a pitch-black labyrinth? To navigate the cave, they must have used fire. To dispose of their dead in a centralized location, they must have had a concept of the afterlife. An ape-like creature, with a tiny brain, engaging in complex mortuary rituals in absolute darkness. The true terror of the Stone Age is not that it was primitive. The terror is that the Earth was once a wildly diverse planet crawling with multiple intelligent human species. Denisovans in the snow, Neanderthals in the forests, Homo naledi in the deep caves, and us. We were not alone. But today, we are the only ones left. We are the sole survivors of a brutal prehistoric arena. Did the others die out from climate shifts, or did we systematically hunt, outcompete, and erase every single one of our cousins until we were the undisputed masters of the globe? We stare at the empty fossil beds, realizing that the monsters we fear in the dark are the very reflections of ourselves. We did not just survive the Stone Age. We conquered it and left a trail of ghosts in our wake.